I'm excited to go ahead and look at some real Dynasty teams and try to make some real roster moves to bolster our position going into the offseason. Now, our first team is going to be coming out from Shut the Club Down. It says, hey, Mason, feel free to use anywhere. Little backstory on our league. It is a 5-year league with the scoring system to determine the winner at the end of it. The entirety of the buy-in is going to the pot for the winner of it all. We just ended year 1. I have prioritized having assets hitting their prime during these years. It is a 10-team Superflex full PPR with no other premiums. I have traded away most of my aging assets to acquire a large amount of draft capital for the upcoming 2024 draft and punted the first year to ensure getting top prospects. The way the league landed, I ended up with the almost perfect setup of picks. I plan on continuing from here on out and hoping my strategy works due to my league mates not considering youth and picks very well. Tell me what you think and any team needs. So this sounds very similar to what you have with, say, like an Empire style Dynasty league where you're not necessarily having to sit here and think, oh, okay, what's the trajectory of this value 10, 12? You're not having to think about anything longer than what we have for the next 4 seasons from this point. So really, we have 24, 25, 26, 27, and then we're Dunskies. So let's go ahead and let's dive into it. It is interesting to hear that you punted year 1 with this league setup. But let's first off start at the quarterback position. We have Lamar. Obviously, Lamar will be always in the mix as that top 5 quarterback, at least over the next 4 seasons. I think we feel very comfortable about that. Going down a little bit lower, we have Trevor Lawrence as well. I think we feel very comfortable about having Lawrence. Obviously, wasn't phenomenal this past season, but ultimately, at the end of the day, still someone that you are excited about from a security perspective. You know that he's going to have a starting job. You know that he'll be a solid quarterback too in Dynasty. To pair him with someone like Lamar does make a lot of sense. And then we also have Baker Mayfield. We'll get to those rookie picks a little bit later on, what we can do with them. But going over to running back, we're sitting here with arguably the RB1 and RB2 in Dynasty. Now over on flockfantasy.com, I have Bijan Robinson ranked as my RB1. But I completely understand if someone else wants to say, Mason, you're wrong. I'm sorry, I have Bijan Robinson ranked at RB2 ahead of Breece Hall. And I have had people reach out to me and tell me that I need to update my rankings on the site and put Breece Hall ahead of Bijan. Maybe I'm a little bit biased. I'm going to go with the guy that is a little bit younger. I don't know. I'm just hoping that Arthur Smith is. We're getting way off track here. Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, top 3 running backs in Dynasty. Super comfortable projecting them out over the next 4 seasons. Obviously, HN Flash. I don't necessarily want to pencil him in as a Dynasty RB1, but have him as your RB3. Phenomenal. We have guys with upside down there the bench like Chase Brown. Really comfortable spot over the next 4 seasons. Going over to wide receiver, we have Ayuk, Garrett Wilson, Devon Achane, JSN, Christian Watt. This is just a phenomenal team, my man. Now, what's interesting with this team is it's going to be a start 10 format, so it's not necessarily one that we can necessarily just completely disregard depth, but at the same time, we can't come out here and say, oh, okay, let's just trade for a bunch of wide receiver 2s and beat people in the flex spots. No, you're going to have a nice balance throughout this entire roster, which we do at every single position, both with the guys at the very top end as well as the depth throughout the entire team. We even have Dalton Kincaid here at tight end. So, I mean, let's just go ahead and let's pull this up on flockfantasy.com real quick just to illustrate exactly how damn good this team truly is. But looking at this, we will trim this window a little bit so it's easier to see. So first, quarterback, I mean, we are sitting with Lamar and Trevor Lawrence. So you have Lamar in the community rankings on flockfantasy.com, currently at QB 5. You have Lawrence currently sitting at QB 11. So we have 2 quarterback 1s. Going over to running back, you have Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, RB2, RB3. Going over to Devon Achane, you have RB7. So you have 3 RB1s in Dynasty. Going over to wide receiver, we are sitting with Garrett Wilson, wide receiver 7. Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver 13. JSN sitting here as a mid wide receiver 2. Christian Watson as a wide receiver 3. Across the board, we are extremely comfortable. We are essentially locked and loaded with top guys at every single position here. And then you go down to the rookie picks, and we have the 101, we have the 102, we have the 103, the 104, the 105, and the 106. So I am very sorry, my friend. This is a team that I have no idea what the hell I can tell you to do. This is a phenomenal roster. This is one of the best teams I'm going to be looking at this entire live stream. The only thing that I could potentially say is, okay, well, maybe we want to go ahead and move some of this depth and almost make a redraft style move and just go get an absolute stud for our second quarterback slot. I mean, if you were this loaded, if you wanted to go through and sell, say, like the 104, right? I mean, if you are looking at the 104, it's probably not Marvin Harrison Jr., definitely not Caleb Williams, maybe not even Drake May. So I don't know. I do think that you have a little bit of a fall off there. And say sell Trevor Lawrence with that. And if you want to go out there and overpay and go get someone like, I don't know, Joe Burrow, I think that could be something that we look at. I mean, if we go over to the flockfantasy.com trade calculator, I wouldn't recommend this trade for a ton of different people. But I think particularly with your team, when you are this loaded, it's a deal that we can afford to make, especially if we are just trying to cram in as many points as we can over the next 4 seasons. You don't necessarily have to go for Burrow. Maybe you want to go ahead and maybe you want to look at a different quarterback in that range, but still essentially move the guaranteed guy with a high floor in Trevor Lawrence. And I'm not saying Lawrence is bad, and I'm not saying that anybody else watching this needs to sell Trevor Lawrence. But when you have this embarrassment of riches, and we can take one of those rookie picks and not even feel it, and trade it away in a package with Lawrence to get a true elite level option at the quarterback position, I think that would be something that we look to do, because I don't really understand what else we can do with how good your team is here, my friend. But I think that's all we have for this team. I wish we could have spent more time on it, but I mean, it's one of the best Dynasty teams that we have seen in a long, long time. There aren't too many moves to make. You already set yourself up in a perfect spot. Thank you so much for being such a long-time member of the flock, my friend. It's happy to go ahead and look at your team. And of course, you know, we are just grinding away, upgrading flockfantasy.com every single freaking day, my man. So if there's anything you ever want to see on the site, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and let me know. I'd be super happy to help you out. Now, real quick, let me just remind y'all, if you want to get your team broken down on a podcast like this, one, sign up for flockfantasy.com, promo code flock, mother flocker tier. You'll get 30% off any subscription, plus yours truly breaking down your Dynasty Fantasy Football team, either in a personal podcast, if you want to keep it private, or on a live stream like this, whatever you are wanting. And then once you do that on flockfantasy.com, you can find it both on your account page as well as at the very top of any screen. Click the Discord button. You'll automatically get put into our Discord. And from there, it will link your account. You're not going to have to do anything other than press a button that says link my account. And then you'll be set up and you should be able to send your team here in the roster submission tab on Mason's Flock in the Discord. So if you want my team, I mean, if you want me to break down your Dynasty team, sign up flockfantasy.com, promo code flock, and then just shoot me a screenshot of that team with some context in the roster submission tab. I'd be super happy to get that out for you. But going over to Sparky, saying, hey, Mason, first and foremost, I appreciate all the help you provide for all of us in fantasy football. Just subscribe to you today and you'll take a look at both my teams. This is my first year doing Dynasty. We took over 2 teams so we could use the help. If you don't mind, I'm going to post both my teams for whenever you have the chance. Super happy to look at it, my friend. League 1's going to be a super flex format, tight end premium with a half point per reception added on. I took over an absolutely horrible team and sold all my guys for picks. Would love a good attack plan from you going forward. Now, I've noticed this a lot in Dynasty Fantasy Football, and especially if you're new, I do want to at least bring this up for a second. And I know people are going to hate me saying this because it's a very selfish thing that I'm about to say, but I That is what I would do. If you are new to Dynasty Fantasy Football, before you go out there and take over someone's trash team, I would try to find a startup instead. Go to our Discord chat. Try to find a league where you can go out there and you can draft a good team from the jump instead of having to take over someone's dumpster fire roster, unless you're getting your first year paid for or something along those lines, you know, or unless you really love everybody in the league and you really want to be in a league with them. Now, looking at this team, we can immediately see, yes, it is a dumpster fire. This is a league where we're going to be starting 3 wide receivers, 2 flexes, and a super flex. So very well balanced format. This is going to be a league where you start 10 guys, you have the super flex. So really not too much to discuss in terms of adjusting to your league settings. Going over to quarterback, we are currently sitting with Russ in our starting lineup. And outside of Russell Wilson, we do not have anybody, which is interesting to note. With Russ, I am expecting him to be a starting quarterback this next season. Am I really wanting to rely? No, I'm not wanting to rely on Russell Wilson if we don't have to. Now, going over to running back, currently sitting with Saquon Barkley, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So obviously, Saquon does have some value here. I mean, if we're looking at this team, I'm going to cut straight to the chase. The only guys that have any trade value whatsoever, that if you were wanting to go to the market and see what you could get, you could look at Russell Wilson, and you could look at the Giants players. Darren Waller, Saquon Barkley, and Russ. Now, this team has a 0% chance of contending last season or this next season. We have phenomenal rookie picks coming in. We have the 101. We have the 102. I mean, we could sit here and take Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. We could sit here and take Caleb Williams and Drake May. Obviously, a long offseason to figure that out. We have the 106, the 108, the 110 for some added flexibility. I mean, I don't necessarily want to map out exactly where we're taking to those picks just yet. Obviously, we want to let the season play out, and we could be making moves with the picks if we see the value arise where it makes sense. Because when we do monopolize here about half the first round in our rookie draft, I mean, there will be people as the offseason goes on trying to get some of these picks from you. And maybe if you find a good price point of the 106, where you can sell like the 106 for an early second in 2025 first. Maybe that's something we look to do, but obviously we're just going to look to hold the picks right now and let them accumulate in value. But let's take a look at what we could potentially sell these guys at the very top for, because I want to essentially take the cornerstone assets at the very top of this year's rookie draft, or this is plan A, set ourselves up in the position to next season in 2025, get the 101 pick yet again, and really look to contend next season when we should have a strong core at this point. So let me go back over to flogfantasy.com real quick. What you can do on the site, my friend, obviously you're already on the site, but you can pull up. I'm sorry. I was just seeing if I could fix it on the stream for y'all where I'm not behind it, but it is what it is. Y'all don't need to see my face. But you can pull up any player. We're going to look at Saquon Barkley as if we were to trade away Saquon Barkley. And then you can get an idea of what Saquon Barkley trades look like underneath if you wanted some inspiration of what we could be looking to trade him for. So this is a league that's similar to yours, right? Superflex, 12-team league, start 10, happy BR. Here's someone traded some veteran assets, Mike Evans, Aaron Jones, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey for Achane, Laporta, a third and a fourth. So I'll just show you real quick, and you can go through and you can double check. Oh, was this a trade that we should make? Should I look at something like this? And I'm going to play spoiler for you. For the love of God, do not do anything like this. And then I believe the other side, oh, dear God, it went away. We're going to have to go ahead and look at what it was again. The other side was Achane, Laporta, a third and a fourth. Achane, Laporta, a third, a fourth. I'm not even going to bother adding Aaron Jones. I mean, we can just cut to the chase. If you were looking at this, adding in Aaron Jones, probably not necessarily something that you are wanting to do, just to get an idea of some trade candidates. Maybe we could be looking to trim this down. And obviously, we don't have assets like Christian McCaffrey, Mike Evans, But instead, if you wanted to look to trade maybe like Saquon Barkley and get back Devon Achane on a rebuilding team, that could be something that we are looking to do. Looking over at what trades we could potentially find involving Darren Waller, on the other hand. This is someone that you're also going to be getting very, very little value from. And the community rankings is currently at 177. I mean, trying to find anything here. You saw Darren Waller essentially get treated as a throw-in with this Waddle, Debo, Christian McCaffrey deal. Waller over here getting treated yet again as another throw-in. Here, this is a smaller deal on the bottom left where you see Judy, Palmer, likely Waller get traded for Kincaid in a third. So maybe this is a structure of a deal that we could potentially look at, trying to trade away Darren Waller in additional asset to see if we can pivot over to a younger tight end such as Dalton Kincaid. Obviously, we'd have to add in a considerable amount to get to that. Looking at where you have them respectively, you have Dalton Kincaid tight end 5 and 59 overall in the community rankings. So generally, those would be the guys that we are looking to sell if we can get anything. I would say Saquon Barkley for a 2025 first. We're selling immediately on a team that's a dumpster fire that we need to burn it to the ground. Darren Waller for a 2025 or 2024 second. I am selling immediately. Hunter Henry for a third. Any veteran on this team is expendable. This team, regardless of how hard we hit on these rookies at the very top, just simply is not going to be able to compete in a start 10 league this next season. So I would rather put ourselves in the position where we can look to contend in 2025. It's really nice that we have the flexibility not only of our own 2025 first, but also 2 additional ones where if we hit on those 2 cornerstone assets at the very top of the 101, 102, we get some kind of future value out of Saquon, Darren Waller, and then hopefully Russell Wilson when he signs, and use some flexibility with the 106, 108, 110. I think we can put ourselves in a decent position for 2025. Now, let's go ahead and let's dive into the other team for you here, my friend. Now, this other one is going to be a super flex half PPR format. You just took the team over a lot better than the first team. Most of our assets are getting older, so we don't mind planning a rebuild. We sold Sam Howell for the 207 and a future second. I like it. Sold Pacheco in a second for Bryce Young. I like that as well. Thank you so much, my friend, for being a member of the flock, as always. But let's go ahead and let's pull this up. So starting off quarterback, we are rocking with Tua and Bryce Young currently. Really nobody down here on the bench that we need to concern ourselves with. Maybe you say Derek Carr, given his contract's guaranteed a starting job next season. But the reality is, not super excited about our quarterback 2 situation right now. You just kind of have a guaranteed starter, even if we don't necessarily know if the ceiling is going to be there with either guy. Going over to running back, Aaron Jones, wasn't useful this season. The probability that he's useful next season is slim to none. Josh Jacobs, obviously no contract locked in next year. Very difficult to project out what you're going to be looking at with Jacobs. We have Khalil Herbert. Really, out running back, it is so hard to predict what's going to happen from a season-to-season perspective once we are sitting here in January. Any opportunity we get to cash out on Josh Jacobs and get the 108, the 107, obviously we are selling. If I can sell Aaron Jones for the 201, 202, I am selling in a heartbeat. Really the cornerstone assets of the team. We have Jefferson, Devonta Smith here to pair up with Tua. So, this is a team that I 100% agree with you. I think we are in a better spot than we were with the previous one. But going down to what we have with our rookie picks, we don't have a first-round pick in 2024. So this is a team that is definitely in the middle of the road where it's not super exciting. And I don't want to say we have no shot to contend next season, but we are definitely going to be on the lighter end of having assets to really try to make a push for 2024. So I would probably be planning on rebuilding this team if the value arises where it makes sense for us. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to be forcing a rebuild here. I think it'd make a lot more sense for us to just go ahead and, play it by ear, see what value we get through the course of the offseason. You can kind of posture as if you're going to try to contend with this team, depending on the situation for Josh Jacobs in 2024. This team does have some upside. Just the last thing I would ever want this team to do when it looks like it can go one way or the other is do not trade away your 2025 first. Hold the 2025 first in your back pocket, just in case we do decide that we need to burn it down and pivot over to a rebuild. But now let's go over. We got 2 teams to look at from Britain. My friend, thank you for being a member of the flock. Going to be excited to dive into these. Superflex 10-team full BBR. Just started a rebuild this last season. Wanted to get your opinion on where we stand. We shipped off a lot of our older guys, Diggs, Henry, Rogers, to get youth in the 102 this year. We're planning on taking Marvin Harrison Jr. at the 102. I would agree. I think at this point, it most likely looks like he is going to be the guy. But at the same time, I don't want anybody watching this, including yourself, my friend, to think we have to make that decision January 11th. If all of a sudden a team trades up for Drake May at pick 2 overall, Drake May has rushing upside, a ton of investment into him, and at the same time, maybe you have a horrible landing spot where Marvin Harrison Jr. goes to New England, then I agree he is an absurd prospect, but don't just pencil him in saying he's the 102 regardless. Most likely, but keep the flexibility in the back of your mind. We have decent quarterback depth with Richardson, Dak, Tua. The glaring need we see is running back depth, but there isn't much coming in the 2024 draft. I was thinking to shop in Pitts or Godwin for a veteran running back. Not sure yet. What are your thoughts? Okay, let's go ahead and let's dive into this because the first thing that I want to look at here is going to be the league settings in terms of the starting lineup requirements. So this is a league here where you are currently starting 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flexes, and a super flex. So this is going to be a start 10 league and very well balanced. With 3 wide receivers, 2 flexes. Like I said, I think this is at this point probably the most common dynasty league that you're going to see. Starting a quarterback, like you said, we're strong at the very top with depth throughout as well. I mean, if we have Anthony Richardson arguably as our quarterback 3, obviously we're in a very, very comfortable position to be in. Going over to running back, we have Breece Hall, so we have top 3 running back in Dynasty. We have DeAndre Swift, where Swift has upside, but at the same time, by no means is he a guaranteed guy that we can rely upon for 2024. I mean, maybe he is, but a lot can change through the course of the offseason when he doesn't have that guaranteed role going into next year. Zeke, complete toast. Can't rely on Zeke next season. Deonta Foreman, complete toast. Jeff Wilson, complete toast. Justil, complete toast. Zach Charbonnet actually is someone that I would classify as decent depth. I think Charbonnet steps into a similar role to what you had with like A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones back in the day, where with A.J. Dillon, and obviously this never turned out to be the case, but what was sold is this is a running back that you could potentially start from a week-to-week perspective if you get desperate and you absolutely have to. But at the same time, if you were to have an injury to the guy in front of him, then he has league-winning upside. I think that's what you could be seeing here with Zach Charbonnet, where if you were to have that injury to Kenneth Walker, then Charbonnet is a league winner based off his receiving skill set. So I agree. I think that this team probably lacks the guaranteed production at running back, but I think you are really overthinking it, my friend. As we go over to wide receiver, we have Cooper Kupp, George Pickens, Chris Godwin, Jordan Addison, Jacoby Myers. Going down to the bench, we have Jahan Dotson, Josh Downs. So I agree. We do have some decent wide receiver depth. Obviously, a few of these names are veterans where we don't necessarily know what the trajectory looks like next season, the year after. But with your plans on paper of taking Marvin Harrison Jr. at 2, it's a fine wide receiver room. And then going over to tight end, we're in a very comfortable spot sitting with Trey McBride as well as Kyle Pitts. And then going down to what we have with our rookie picks, we have the 102 and the 110. So I completely understand your initial thought process here of, okay, yeah, my team on paper, I need a running back and I'm strong at tight end. Kyle Pitts is expendable. So let me sell Kyle Pitts and let's go buy a veteran running back for some depth. I mean, if you're going to go over to flockfantasy.com right now, let's get a sense of where the rankings have Kyle Pitts in comparison to other running backs in the community rankings, that is. And then also, just in case you don't know, I've seen some people actually message me in the Discord that they didn't know how to navigate this. I need to go through and get y'all an updated video for flockfantasy.com, just explaining how to get to everything, blah, blah, blah. We've added a lot. But if you hit filter and then hit add expert, you can go through and you can add my rankings there. We're not going to be looking at my rankings right now. The community rankings are free for anybody who ever wants to go to the site. But if we're going to be looking at Kyle Pitts, I believe Pitts, last I checked, should be, unless the community rankings change dramatically, between 75 and 100. No? Let's just get this up to 50 to make sure we're not going to be missing them. Okay. So let's look at Pitts in comparison to some other running backs that you have in this range as well. So Kyle Pitts is at 80 in the community rankings as a 23-year-old tight end here. 23-year-old tight ends currently at 80 in the community rankings. If you're comparing him to what we have with other running backs in his range behind him that you could sell him for, you could sell Kyle Pitts currently for Tyjae Spears, Zach Charbonnet, Javonte Williams, DeAndre Swift, Ramondre Stevenson. So let's run through a hypothetical situation right now. Range of outcomes wise, we sell Kyle Pitts for Javonte Williams. What does that accomplish for us? January 11th. Where can Kyle Pitts' dynasty value go over the next 7 to 8 months as nobody submits starting lineups, as nobody thinks about the short term, and everybody thinks about long-term for a 23-year-old tight end that has been disappointing compared to where the hype was, but ultimately has had one of the best starts you could ever ask for a tight end this young. Probably not going to go much lower than where he already is, right? There's probably some kind of floor to where he's currently ranked. I'm not saying he's great value, but I'm saying he's probably a stable asset there. Javonte Williams or Ramondre Stevenson, on the other hand, presumably a veteran running back that you'd be trading Kyle Pitts for. That's an asset that could tank in value. The Denver Broncos, while I understand this running back class isn't strong, they take a running back in round 3 or even round 4 this year. We saw Travis Etienne fall in dynasty value with Tank Bigsby going in round 3, and Etienne was a round 1 running back with a proven track. If you trade him for a marginal running back that's barely holding on to their job right now and there's uncertainty around them, you are inherently taking so much risk when you yourself are not having to submit a starting lineup for 7 to 8 months that I hate the idea. I understand looking at this team on paper why you would think that we need to go out there and trade for a veteran RB. No, I think this point of the offseason is the exact opposite time to do so, to be completely honest with you. I think you're just chilling on your hands. I don't necessarily think you have to do anything at this moment. But yeah, I think you chill and don't try to map it out too much. You're in a very comfortable position. You have a well-balanced roster, and don't think the roster has to be fine-tuned exactly how you want to submit your starting lineups when we're in January. But let's go ahead and let's pull up this other team here. This is going to be a 10-team Superflex, Happy BR. Took it over someone else's team 2 seasons ago. Quarterbacks are okay, not great. Running backs good. Wide receivers are all young with promise. We have the 106, and you think it's wishful thinking to grab Neighbors there. Maybe I find a veteran wide receiver to trade for the 106. Thanks, Phil. No, thank you, my friend. Going back to what we're talking about, I think maybe we're going to be sitting in the same spot. One thing I do want to at least address, very similar league settings, but with this being a 10-team league, depth is not my priority. Depth should be easy to come by. Depth should be easier to trade for. If it's a 12-team dynasty league where you got to start 11 to 12 guys, then yeah, 100%, I'm going to be talking about depth. I'm really going to be considering depth as we go through and look at these teams. However, 10-team format, just simply not going to be the case here. Quarterback, we are sitting with Tua. And then beyond that, we have Deshaun Watson, we have Cousins. So with Watson and Cousins, obviously we're not super confident that we know exactly what's going to happen in 2024. I am confident, though, that at least one of those guys will be someone we can rely upon. And we have 2 quarterbacks that we are okay with. Maybe Flacco's around in 20. I'm not relying on Flacco. I mean, definitely roster him, but I'm not relying on it. Bijan, Travis Etienne, both RB1s in Dynasty. Guys on their rookie contract. Guys that we can comfortably start from week-to-week perspective. Going down, we have Tyler Algier. So we have some decent running back depth. Like I said, in this format particular, I'm not necessarily prioritizing running back depth here in the slightest. Going over to wide receiver, we have Addison, JSN, Calvin Ridley. We have Tank Dell. And yeah, maybe we could use an extra, we have Josh Downs. But maybe we could use an extra wide receiver or two. We have TJ Hawkinson here at tight end as well. Honestly, I think this is a very good team with upside. A lot of it hinges on what we get with Minnesota. If Cousins is able to fully recover and if he does go back to Minnesota and they rely on him this next season, then obviously you should be really excited about what we have with this double stack of Addison and TJ Hawkinson. And then Kirk Cousins as your QB2. This is almost just the same thing that we're seeing with the other team. I think your team's in a fine position. And I don't necessarily think that there are any assets that we are having to go through and immediately sell off this roster. I don't think this is a team that needs to go all in to contend this season or go all in on a full rebuild like a team that we looked at previous. I think you're a very well-balanced team that has a lot of options as the offseason progresses. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see in Dynasty, and I used to make the mistake as well. I started playing Dynasty in 2014. I love Dynasty Fantasy Football. I was addicted from the second I started. I joined 10 plus leagues. The first year was in 20 plus leagues by year 2. And I would sit there and I'd look at my Dynasty teams every single day. And I'd look at a team like this and go, I could use an extra wide receiver. I don't know who's going to make it to me at the 106. Let me trade this 106 for an extra. No. Hold on to the 106. It's flexibility. It's going to continue to rise or maintain value over the next 5 months. We'll have an idea once we get closer to the rookie draft of what we're actually looking at. And then at that point, we can go ahead and we can make a decision, because by the time we actually get there, maybe we determine that we don't actually need a wide receiver. So the last thing I want to do is go out there and trade the 106 and just lock in a receiver right now. If we're going to go over to flockfantasy.com real quick and just get a sense of what wide receivers you could potentially sell the 106 for, just to see if you kind of like that value. Right now, the guys that are going around the 106 range, Brandon Ayuk, Jordan Addison, DJ Moore, Michael Pittman. Now, I don't think you're getting up to Waddle Olave. For the love of God, if you can trade the 106 for Olave, please do it. But essentially, it'd be like, okay, do we want to trade the 106 for DJ Moore or Brandon Ayuk? And I see the argument to make that trade if you are sitting maybe, I don't know, in week 10 and you're making a playoff push. You need another wide receiver. You're going, I got this 106. Yeah, it gives me flexibility. Yeah, it gives me long-term value. But give me Brandon Ayuk. Let me win right now. We just simply don't have to make that call when it's January 11th. And we are thinking a little more long-term with flexibility here. So definitely hold on to your picks, my friend. Don't go out there and trading for veteran running backs, veteran wide receivers right now, unless you're going to get an absurd discount. Obviously, if you can trade the 106 and go get Waddle, go get Olave, then we're going to go ahead and do it. But I'm not going to be settling for someone like DJ Moore in that range. Because are we going to get to April and DJ Moore is all of a sudden going to be worth the 104? No. There's nothing really happening that's going to dramatically increase a player's value like that. But thank you again so much for being a member of the flock, my friend. Really hope that we are able to help you out somewhat here, and really hope that we are able to get you something from it. And of course, I'm sure you see it. We're improving flockfantasy.com every single day. If there's anything I can do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Let me know. Be super happy to get it done. And yeah, we have some pretty exciting announcements coming later today where we will have actual 2024 prospects on the site with everybody ranking them. Will be nice. But real quick, let me address this. If you want to post your team, of course, first thing, be a member of flockfantasy.com. Code FLOCK. We get 30% off any subscription. Plus, with the Mother Flocker tier, yours truly will break down your Dynasty Fantasy Football team, either in a live stream like this or in a personalized podcast, whatever you want. Then, once you sign up to flockfantasy.com with code FLOCK, then go over, join our Discord. You can do that on the account page, as well as at the very top of the site. Just hit the button and it'll automatically link your flockfantasy.com account and your Discord account. And then it'll unlock the roster submission tab for you. And you can go ahead and you can send your team in roster submissions. Send a screenshot, send some contacts, send whatever you want. I'd be happy to look at it. But let's go. We got Stone Cold Kittle about to look at his team. Let's go, my man. So saying first year Dynasty, 10-team full BBR, 2 quarterback, 2 running back, 3 receiver, tight end, and triple flex league. Really like this. If you're looking at it, I believe this is going to be unless my math is horrendous, which it may be, this is a start 11 league. So this is similar to like a start 10, 12 team league. But if you're playing in a 10 team league, I definitely recommend start 11. Started trading some players after a bad start. Hopkins and Lockett for 2 future seconds. Love for the 105. 10 team league, I don't mind it. We have the 104, 105. We need a tight end badly. Maybe drafting Malik Neighbors and Brock Bowers. What do you think? Feel free to use our team on YouTube. You're the best. Bases in a DM as well. No, thank you so much. As always, my friend. Appreciate you. Happy to see that you are getting into Dynasty here. And it is a tight end premium format as well. So let's go ahead and let's dive into this, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. This is a team where you have to start 2 quarterbacks, which I actually really like. I would much prefer a true 2 quarterback format in a 10-team league than a super flex league. But we have Purdy and Allen, so we have 2 QB1s in Dynasty, at least in my mind. Super confident having both these guys in the same roster. Going down to what we have on the bench, we have Deshaun Watson. So, I mean, obviously, someone that should be a starting quarterback this next season. We have Cousins as well. Yeah, so we have potentially 3 to 4 starting quarterbacks, 2 of which are QB1s in Dynasty. Very comfortable spot to be in. Going over to running back, we have James Cook, Javonte. So James Cook being on the rookie contract, with the fact that this year's rookie running back class isn't particularly strong, I'm pretty confident in projecting out James Cook as someone that we can start this next season. But at the same time, I don't want to act as if James Cook is for sure someone that's going to be a bona fide stud, right? That's, I mean, a little bit tougher to say. And then Javonte Williams, very uncertain. Latavius. So we don't necessarily have any of the cornerstone running backs, right? Like, we're not sitting here with Bijan Robinson. We're not sitting here with Jahmyr Gibbs. We're not sitting here with Breece Hall. I mean, we have guys that may be viable, but also you want to be surprised if, I mean, the situation gets worse and all of a sudden we're not super confident in our running back room. Going over to wide receiver, we're in a great spot, right? We have Ayuk, Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle in the starting lineup. We have Drake London, wide receiver 4. So we have 4 young, proven talents at the wide receiver position that we can comfortably project out to start. Now, one thing that I want to mention is, since it's a league where you can go through and you can start up to 6 wide receivers, for sure this is going to be a format that we want to go through and we want to prioritize depth at the wide receiver position. I mean, here, this is the kind of league where if you can just stack wide receiver 2s on each other, if you can have as many guys that look like, just say, Brandon Ayuk as possible, and then obviously every once in a while they'll have a wide receiver 1 season, every once in a while they'll have a wide receiver 3 season, but they're pretty much perpetual wide receiver 2s. If we can have 6 of those players and just beat down our league mates at those flex spots, I feel great about that. And even with this being a tight end premium format, considering the fact you can start up to 6 wide receivers from a week-to-week perspective, I'm not super concerned about tight end here. So I completely understand if we get to the 104, we get to the 105, and all of a sudden Brock Bowers, for how rookie drafts shake out, how landing spots are, if he's the best guy on your board, sure, go ahead and take him. If Neighbors is the best guy on your board, then sure, go ahead and take him. But from a team need perspective, I don't necessarily think you need to be penciling yourself into any rookies at this point of the season. In terms of trades that we potentially need to make as of today, I don't necessarily see anything, right? I mean, this is a team where we still have our 2025 first. We have a ton of youth on the roster as well. So I think what we do is we keep the youth, we keep the 2025 first, we go into 2024 under the assumption that we are going to be a contending team. And then obviously, if the wheels fall off, if we have injuries, then at that point, we can pull the ripcord. We can look to sell some of these veteran assets like James Cook, like Javonte Williams, and we can look to push for the future. But I mean, right now, you're sitting in a very balanced position where we kind of just want to see what happens with the running backs, see what happens with the rookie picks over the course of the next few months, and not necessarily lock ourselves into anything with those picks. I mean, if we were going to go ahead and make a potential move right now, I don't necessarily think this is a trade that we could potentially, that we can make right this second. But I have seen Nick Chubb just slowly creeping up the community rankings on flogfantasy.com. this is going to be something that I want to continue to monitor, because if all of a sudden Nick Chubb gets to a point where you could potentially go out there and in a 10-team league with these league settings, sell him for like the 201, sell him for like the 202. I understand he is younger, but coming off a devastating knee injury, I honestly wouldn't necessarily hate that. I mean, if you're looking at where he is in the community rankings right now, he's in the range of like Deontay Johnson, Michael Mayer, Dallas Goedert, Jacoby Myers, Cole Kmet. So at this price point, I'm not selling. I'd probably rather just hold on to Nick Chubb. But if you look at where Chubb was, I mean, just a month ago in these community rankings, Nick Chubb was about 50 slots lower than this. So I'm going to monitor where Nick Chubb is going in these rankings. And if it begins to creep up over guys like David Montgomery, over Brian Robinson, I would sell Nick Chubb for someone like Calvin Ridley in a heartbeat in this format. Just going back to what we were talking about previously, trying to stack on wide receivers that we could play in those flex spots. Sell Chubb for someone like Ridley, sell him for someone like Hollywood Brown. Those would be moves that I'd be looking to make. I don't necessarily think it's a possibility right now, but if values continue to trend in the way that they have been, I think that can be something that we monitor. And then outside of that, not necessarily too much that we are looking at. I think you're in a very comfortable spot, adding in 2 starters with a 104, 105, building out those flex spots. I understand maybe you feel like you need a tight end, considering the fact it's tight end premium format. It's not super big tight end premium. You only start 1 out of 11 total starters, so it's going to make up a smaller percentage of your starting lineup output. You need a couple flex spots anyway. So if the value when we get on the clock is 2 wide receivers, don't be afraid to pull the trigger on the wide receivers at those rookie picks. If those are the values, of course. My entire point of this is don't lock yourself in anything right now in January. Take the value where it falls. Because while I understand it's a tight end premium format, if you can start up to 6 wide receivers as well, it's kind of de facto a wide receiver premium format at the same time. But I think we'll probably cut the rosters there. We got it going for Shenko. Britton, we looked at 2 teams for. Sparky, we looked at 2 teams for, and we looked at Shut the Club Down as well. So again, thank you so much for everybody hanging out with us. I really hope y'all enjoyed this. I'm going to continue to do these multiple times a week just because I'm going to be doing a personalized podcast anyways, so might as well just put them out on YouTube and hopefully help out some more people with them. And let's answer Steelpin's question. Says, I traded Anthony Richardson and Javonte for Lamar, Evans, and Najee in a Dynasty league. What do you think? Was it a good deal? Let's go ahead and let's pull up the trade calculator on flockfantasy.com. I can tell you what I think right now, but let's go ahead and let's pull this up for the suspense of it, my friend. So this is a league where we got Lamar, Evans, Najee, and we traded Anthony Richardson as well as Javonte Williams for them. So, I mean, if you're looking at this, just eyeballing it, very easy way to see if a trade should be fair or not. Look at the rankings. Lamar, 6 overall compared to Anthony Richardson, 14. I think we'd all prefer Lamar over a Rich. Evans and Javonte are about the same. And you get Najee for free on this side. So this should be the Lamar side in a landslide, which it is. Yeah, I think you made a great deal, my friend. Congrats on that. Congrats on that. Okay. But I think that should be it for this live stream. Again, thank you so much for everybody hanging out with us. I really do appreciate y'all. And if y'all want to check out our trade calculator, check out all our rankings, get your team broken down in a podcast, find that all on flockfantasy.com. Code FLOCK, 30% off any subscription, plus yours truly breaking down your Dynasty team for you. And on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, a week-long free trial with code FLOCK. But I think that's all I have for you. Appreciate you. You can find that link in the description, comment section, live chat. And I will hopefully get to see you with the video tomorrow. I actually really like the video tomorrow. Actually, no, side note. We have a meetup coming as well. Point this out. Vlog meetup this Saturday, January 13th, Austin, Texas, Zilker Park. You better be there. Hanging out, talking football. Obviously, completely free. Just come, hang out. Should be a lot of fun. If you are in Texas, I expect to see you there. Thank you again. Appreciate you. and hope I get to see you out with the video tomorrow.